We want to clear the stage because we got a big personality that we are going to bring up here, a man that knows a thing or two or 18 about investment. We are going to be bringing up the founder of True Global Ventures. He was awarded Angel Entrepreneur of the Year for Europe, for the entirety of the continent. He is the best of the best. He has had, in the last couple of years, 18 different ventures, of which 9 he has already successfully exited. The legend of this man was made in particular when he exited 3 companies in 1 week. I mean, who does that? I'll tell you who does that. Our speaker that's coming up here right now, his name is Dušan Stojanović. He is the founder of True Global Ventures, a legend in Asian investing. Dušan, why don't you come up here and let him have it? All right, ladies and gentlemen, big welcome for Dušan.
Do you have a...
We will get you a clicker. You guys are done. I think he can live with a chair, but let's get him a clicker so he can get going. Psst, psst. Yeah, okay. It's on its way, Dušan. Take it away. We'll get it to you.
Okay, so I'll get a clicker later on, I guess. Otherwise, I'll be singing the whole for 20 minutes, and that's going to be a little bit boring. So can we hear a little bit, who do we actually have in the crowd? Obviously, it's always very difficult to see here on stage, but can we see hands up for everyone who's done an angel investment? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 20, 25. Who's done a crypto investment? Okay, that's more, about 30. And ICOs? Who's done an ICO? Not that many, 10, 15, all right. So here we go, very quickly. What I'm going to talk to you about today is my vision of how I think most VC and private equity firms will be disrupted and change into over the next 10 years. I'm constantly trying to disrupt myself and what we've been doing with True Global Ventures, and it's basically the vision of the $1 billion decentralized blockchain fund. So like Andrew said, originally I did, these equity investments. I had 3 exits in a week, which was basically the secret sauce were 4 letters, L-U-C-K, luck. Obviously that it happens in a week. It's never going to happen again, but it was good fun. Now, 5 years later, if you look at it, what is happening in 3 weeks in a row now? It's actually that we get 3 ICOs in 3 weeks. So that's actually the next thing. And to talk a little bit about what Maxim said, Balašević said earlier, just to talk about how important timing is. Bounty Source, powered by Kenya, was a $12 million Australian dollar ICO the 27th of December. That story is an amazing story. We took basically, when Ripple was open source, we took bounties and sold those bounties for Ripple. When? 4 years ago. All my partners said, close down that business, Dušan, we have lost confidence in you. And I said no. And then I asked along my partnerships, does anyone believe in this business long term? There were 4 people. It went so far that even management left the company and decentralized the whole organization of Bounty Source so it could be self-sustaining. So that's how far it went, and I think that's a good example of how important timing is. Today you have 48,000 open source developers who can grab your bounty wherever it is in the world. So the 12 point whatever billion dollars raised in ICOs, they need something, and it's open source developers. Otherwise their projects will fail. That's the problem Bounty Source solves. However, 4 years too early. So I think one key thing that I've learned over the years is to be persistent if you actually believe in something really. Now, all the other things, I can mention you, Bluezell, maybe some of you have invested there. That was the $19.5 million in Singapore, which we backed originally. And then we have a fantastic project with SharesPost, which is basically trying to create a security compliance network globally. That you basically pull on a button and you're compliant for security tokens across the world. It's a big vision, and it's not going to happen over time quickly, but it's there. And hopefully we'll be able to announce tomorrow with GBX that we are underwriting and sponsoring Striking, which is a gaming company which basically makes any gamer who is basically in fantasy sport that he can start to have a decent living. So that's basically hopefully something we can announce tomorrow or the day after. So again, back to numbers. What did we say? We said roughly $12 billion have been raised in the last 5 quarters. This is statistics from CoinDesk. You can see other statistics where it says maybe 13, 14 billion, and then they say 1,400 companies. CoinDesk has maybe narrowed it down to basically about 12 billion for about 500 companies. As you can see, Telegram is huge in terms of what they've done in March, and I think that it gave the market the huge self-confidence after having Facebook, Twitter, and Google being very, very negative about ICOs, then you have a huge telegram. And what better than a Russian who explains to us, what you should do with data and not do with data. So the world has changed, definitely. So that is a huge and important thing. Now, what we did was that we did basically a global competition. So we went end of December, January, and said, is this market really big enough for a $1 billion investment? So we went and said, who are those people that actually have these projects and in which area? So we got a little bit less than 200 blockchain projects across the world. And believe it or not, but 80% of those projects were led by serial entrepreneurs. That shows where the industry is. It's not anymore just geeks running around here and doing protocols, which are great and will disrupt the world, but also a lot of talent is coming. I think Bonnie said earlier today, when you see this massive talent with this massive money, the world will change. So what the outcome of that is blockchain infrastructure, blockchain financial services, blockchain AI, blockchain entertainment. These are the kind of 4 top categories that we see. Where are these ICOs happening? As you can see, a lot of small countries like Gibraltar, like Israel, like Singapore, like Switzerland. So obviously all those guys want to build and win their kind of ICO capital financial services image, which they can do as well. More recently, though, new countries and large countries are embracing it, like France. Even President Macron says openly the 16th of March, I want to build Paris into the ICO capital of Europe. Who can believe that? French, they are so conservative. My wife is French. I built my first company in France. Who could believe that the monetary authorities of France would actually start to embrace this? Nobody a year ago. Same with Japan. That is not that big, not such a big surprise though, but they came out with something just a couple of days ago as well. So, see if we can move this forward. We got a little bit stuck. Can somebody help me with the next page? There we go. So where do we invest? So we invest in serial entrepreneurs, we invest in the cash. We come from more of a payments and then blockchain, ICO background and data analytics. Today we invest in New York, San Francisco, Berlin, Stockholm, Paris, London, Beijing, Shanghai, Hong Kong, Singapore. With the $1 billion fund, we want to go to another 19 cities. What are we looking for? We're looking for cities where there are blockchain developers, where business can be made, other blockchain companies, where the public administration is on blockchain, and cities that have an accommodating ICO policy. So these are all the green ones that we want to expand into, or that we are expanding into. Okay, so what are the big trends? We want to trade LP interest. That's our vision. We are not going to be the first ones to do that. What is unique about us is that we have a truly decentralized organization. So when I started True Global Ventures, 8 years ago, people said, Dušan, you will never make these cities. You will kill yourself traveling. And I almost did, maybe. But I was the glue which now can be replaced by the smart contract. And now we can really start to decentralize with the glue that was missing when I started this 2010. It's about timing. Do you remember I said about timing? And be persistent with timing. So are other funds trading LP interest? Yes, Blockchain Capital is doing it. Spice VC is doing it. I think many more are doing it. These are just 2 examples. But I think we are actually doing it in a truly decentralized fashion in terms of where all our mini GPs are. And we are already built that way. So what else is this another big trend? You're starting to have these platforms, these so-called ICO platforms, like the Gibraltar blockchain exchange, which does both primary and secondary. It takes out the uncertainty if there will be liquidity in the token, which is great. Coin is doing something very similar in Japan. Sharespace is doing something similar in the US, and others. It's not the only ones that I'm mentioning, but that's a big trend. And I think that is giving also the regulatory environment which is needed to actually get trust into the ICOs. So this is unstoppable in terms of regulatory as well. So you need to be careful with regulatory. Green means that we can invest in equity, in seed A, B, C, but we can also invest in equity in private pre-sale ICO. And these things change all the time. So China and India, forget it. Only equity, no private pre-sale, no ICO. Korea is changing. They tighten up stuff, the KYC and ML policies and other things, and now up they go, other people that know this better, but apparently now it's open again to do ICOs in Korea, if I got this right. What I'm trying to say with the picture, these things change all the time. So they are green, then they become red, and then hopefully they become green again. In some cases, maybe they'll never become green again. So this is really what happened in Asia and what happened in the US. Now, up. See if we can get the next one. Can somebody help me? Yeah. Okay, great. So Europe is catching up. I mentioned Macron and Paris. But in general, you see way more green than red in Europe. Why? There haven't been any scams yet. Will they come? Yes, they will. There's one thing that we always know, that people do not learn from other people's mistake and other countries' mistake. So for sure there will be scams here as well. Trust me on that one. There's no kind of big money to win there in terms of betting on that one. So some of these will become red, and then hopefully they will tie up and get some subpoenas and KYC and MLL stuff going around, and then they will become red, and then they will become green again. Human nature, unfortunately. Now, equity or tokens, let's see, can you help me with the next one? Yeah, we do equity. We only do equity in the beginning. Okay, oops, sorry, that went way too fast. Okay, now the thing started to work. So, oops, I have a little bit of a problem here. Oops, now somebody's helping me at the same time. Yeah, go forward, please. Go forward. Go forward. Go forward. Oops, sorry, backwards, sorry, yeah. There you go, that's the one I want. All right, so there are 4 key features that I believe in terms of the next generation of funds that will be out there. So liquidity, tokenization, international deal flow. Here we rock and roll. Na 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 na. Cuckoo, hey, here we go, go. Okay, all right, liquidity. So here we go. That's the most important page. You got that flash, so you knew that this page was very, very important, right? Okay, so there are a couple of things that are important here. Number 1, the last fund we did was supposed to take 4 years, okay? We finished it in 2 years and a quarter. Why? Because we ICO'd 50% of our companies, which means that we didn't have to reserve some capital. You know, VCs always reserve because they're conservative. Here, when you see ICOs happening, chuck, 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 you don't have to reserve capital, your investment period shortens. Not 50%, but almost, right? That's important. The other thing is that you actually see some underlying liquidity also in these companies. Like what happens there? Basically, we're locked in for 6-12 months, we're vested over 4 years after that, so we kind of completely align with the founders. So it's not kind of that we can sell off in one day. But, you know, psychologically it's there. So I can actually transfer to my investment partners a piece of those tokens directly to the LPs and my investment partners at some stage, and they can decide if they want to buy or sell or whatever they want to do. It's very psychological and very important. So that's number 1. Number 2 is actually that between the 3,000 LPs that we are discussing to have in our 30 countries, there we build in the smart contract that we can start to have liquidity between these 3,000. So it's taking the shareholders agreement, which is so archaic, is so old-fashioned. Our industry is the most old-fashioned, conservative, non-tech industry that exists. So you're taking that shareholders agreement and saying, wow, into the smart contract, let's do liquidity between LPs as soon as the investment period is done. Normally you're stuck there for 8-10 years, you get it after 4 years. Another piece that never works really well is the default of call of funds. It's a big mess every single time it happens, and when it happens, basically you lose all your money you've invested. Puff, you put in the smart contract, 10% discount, done in seconds. So there are huge things. This is disruption. And those VCs who don't get that, I don't think they will survive. Okay, next one. Okay, so this one is very simple. All I'm saying is that the ICO platforms, like Gibraltar Blockchain Exchange, like Coin, like SharesBoost, and others, with them, you will in the future be able also to raise funds on those. That means that you don't have to run around like an idiot across the world that have 3 dinners or 5 dinners with every single family office. You just raise it on a platform. Like, is that going to happen? Yes. Secondary markets, like Second Market, SharesBoost, they are doing transactions completely online. When we talked about that 8 years ago, people said, no, never, $50 million online. It's happening. This will happen as well. Next one. International, this is our secret sauce. So we are 60 partners in 11 cities. In the future, we'll be 330 cities. So basically, 10 years ago, I said all angels should invest together and basically help their portfolio companies. That's a very nice idea. The problem with that has always been the free rider effect. Some people do it, some people don't. Then we started and introduced warrants. So for those who did it, they got some extra warrants in the portfolio companies. Do you think that is very sexy? So. At least it's a proof of something. But is it liquid? No. Is the token liquid? Yes. So if they get a token for the value add, then you're talking. Then you get really everybody on board, and everybody's really helping with the portfolio companies. Pre-ICO, during ICO, post-ICO, because a lot of those companies will fail. So you need to be obsessed by helping them all the way through. And the ICO is just a starting point. After that, the real ride continues for at least 4, 5, if not 6 years. Next page. And then basically, how do you going to match this? No matter if it's a private equity firm or us, you need to be able to match all the portfolio companies with all the value-added investors. Is that done today? No. People don't care even when a company is going bust. Basically, this is it's a write-off. Why do you focus on a write-off? Let's just focus on the unicorns. That's bullshit. Every company should be successful if you just have the right skill sets in the team, and then you focus for a couple of weeks and you save the company. I explained to you Bounty Source. There are many other examples like that. So that's really pure bullshit from A to Z, that every company should be successful if you have the tools how to help the company. So that's really everything about what I wanted to tell you. Just to summarize what I was telling you, so I have 2 more minutes here. So basically the key points in terms of the way I look at basically the future funds being, number 1, there is a huge disruption in liquidity. And that's something I want all of you to remember, that that's the key thing. The second thing in terms of raising capital, I think, is just a pure process improvement. The piece of international, every company will do differently in terms of funds. The deal flow, I think, is something that's must to do, that you basically match the portfolio companies with the investor base. Pre-investment, post-investment, exit. So these 2 points, liquidity and deal flow. So this is basically a smart contract. This is basically advanced data analytics. It's not really AI. I call it AI, but it's not. You need huge amount of data before it becomes AI. But these 2 things, we're open to license to anyone. So we are trying to do this in a very, very open fashion. So we're building it now. If somebody's interested, you can actually join the ride. We have many of our investors in True Group Ventures 4+ are general partners from VCs and private equity firms because they're intrigued by all this. And I think this is really it for me. I don't know if there are any questions. I did it a little bit quicker than expected because I know we're running out of time. Andrew, are we all good? Is that okay?
You've got time for maybe a question or 2. I have a question from Bonin Sue. Is this for this section? Bonin Sue, are you still in the audience? I wasn't sure if it was for this section. Warren Buffett's, Bill Gates, huge critique of cryptocurrency. And they believe the value of Bitcoin is going to fall to 0. Bill Gates even said that he would even short Bitcoin if it were easy to do so. Why do you think they think this way? Or do you want to comment on why Warren Buffett and Bill Gates are so negative on Bitcoin despite its merits?
Why Warren Buffett is so negative about Bitcoin? I don't know if I'm extremely positive about Bitcoin myself, but why they're negative, I think they just don't trust that something is completely decentralized, not very concrete. I think it's a mindset thing. And I think one of the biggest things that I have as a challenge is how do I bring all my partners to this mindset of decentralization? I think that's one of the biggest challenges that we are facing generally. We almost say decentralized, but that means that the brain has to work in a decentralized manner and that we actually trust the decentralized function. I believe that I'm a Swedish citizen and we have a lot of consensus building thinking that has helped me a little bit. But that's not a global thing to think in a consensus way. As you know, in a decentralized way. As you know, most countries are very centralized. France, where my wife is from and where I did my startups, is very centralized. I would call US very centralized. So how do you build that across cultures, including Warren Buffett and people like that, to actually trust in a decentralized manner? I think it's a mind thing.
Okay, sounds good. We might have time for a question from the audience. Anybody want to throw a hand up? They got a question for Dušan? Angel Investor of the Year. I'm going to call him Angel Investor of the Century. No? Okay. One last chance. Okay, very good. Ladies and gentlemen, let's have a big round of applause for Dušan Stojanović.
Thanks.
Dude, you lit the stage on fire. Thank you so much.